What's up, guys, and welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about how Apex Legends can beat Fortnite and become the king of games. I'm Backpack Barney, bringing you everything you need to know about Apex Legends. And what an interesting topic. Can Apex become the go-to king of games that Fortnite has been for the last couple of years? I think there's three areas that it needs to compete, and the first area I may have already accomplished. Okay, so the three areas that it needs to compete with Fortnite in order to take that audience and become the king is competitive scene. It needs to be the bigger in the competitive scene. It needs to have crossplay, and we need a creative mode. Now, hold on. I know I might be throwing you a lot off by saying that there need to be a creative mode, but just hear me out for a sec. We'll go through these and I'll tell you how Apex Legends can do this. So first off, the competitive scene. What makes a great competitive scene is a game that doesn't cater towards the casual, a game that caters towards the player who invests time and becomes better and better at the game. This is something that Fortnite has kind of failed at. I don't want to say completely failed because they have a huge competitive scene, but a lot of pros complain about how Fortnite isn't this consistent game and they constantly change the meta prior to big tournaments. And it's true. I mean, for example, the competitive side of Fortnite is down until Season 8, and they're about to have a major tournament coming up. Apex Legends, when you first play the game for the first time, there's an intro movie, and at the end of the movie, the guy says, it's simple. You're either better or you're not. And so the inherent perspective and outlook that you get that Respawn has for this game is that they are going to make this game something where, look, there's going to be the kings, and then there's going to be the new players. And you can't become a king by being a new player. You have to put in the time to be better. And if you're better, you are. If you're not, you're not. We're not going to make it easy for you to beat players that are better than you. This is the right way to go to overcome that competitive hurdle and become more competitive than Fortnite. When players feel like they can consistently invest time in the game and the meta stays similar, then they can work through to an ultimate goal and they feel safe investing their time in that. This is something that it looks like Apex is going to do well. Now, time will tell if they're able to conquer that so well. I mean, they've only been out a few weeks, and along with, staying competitive, they also need to add new things to their game to keep it interesting so that the newer audience will come and play it. So, are they able to keep and maintain a consistent meta while adding new things? It'll be up in the air. One game that does this really well, for the most part, is League of Legends. It's been a big game for years and years and years, and they have a spring and summer split. The meta may change a bit between spring and summer, but for the most part, during those splits, you have a consistent game where players can work up to achieve their goals of being the best. This is something that Fortnite hasn't done so well, adding in different things like planes and of the such, and things that will change the real core of the game and give an advantage of RNG to other players. And they've kind of missed the mark on being a very consistent meta. So we'll see, can Apex overcome Fortnite in that? So far, I think they're on a good trajectory to do so. One thing that also makes these games so popular is that when they have a huge prize pool for tournaments. Now, in order to get that prize pool, Apex and Fortnite both make their money the same way, with microtransactions. Now, for the time being, Fortnite's going to have much more money to throw into tournaments because it's a much bigger game, more established, more players play it. So they have more money from those microtransactions. I think this is something where we'll see when the battle pass comes out for Apex how well they do these microtransactions, and if they do them really well, then they can get to the point where they're making these huge tournaments. Because regardless of whether or not you play a game, when you hear that these guys are playing for $1 million, you're interested. Everyone knows money, all right? Doesn't matter if you know the game. I could play Tetris all day long. If I flip through the channels and I watch something where these two guys are competing for $1 million, I want to watch. I don't care if they have two snails that are racing against each other. It could be the most boring thing. Add $1 million into the equation, it's interesting. So we'll see how microtransactions are done with the new battle pass coming in for Apex in March. And if it's done really well, then they could start throwing a lot of money into these tournaments as well. Going into our second point, which is crossplay. The game must have crossplay because there's so many people that have friends that are on different consoles. I'm a strictly PC gamer, but I have a lot of friends that have an Xbox or have a PlayStation, and being able to play with those friends on Fortnite is a huge turn on, because then if I want to go play with friends, which is a huge part of gaming, you want to play with people and enjoy your time together, then I need a way to do that with people that don't necessarily have the same console as me. I need to be able to play with my Xbox friends on Apex. I need to be able to play with my PlayStation friends on Apex. And cross-platform play keeps players interested in the game because they can consistently play with different and new friends that they're making in their life, and the barrier of like, oh, you don't have the same system as me isn't there as prevalent. Cross-platform play, I don't know how hard it is to accomplish. I know that when Fortnite did it, it was like, wow. They're changing the space by making cross-platform play. I think Apex is going to be focused on this. I think Respawn is going to be really focused on this because this is such a huge thing to make your game that much bigger. I'll play more often if I know when I get on, I can play with my buddy who's on PC. I'll play more often if I can play with who I want to play with, and enabling cross-platform play is the way to do this. If this is something that Apex can do in the next 6 months, it will also be a point of their player base and community is going to skyrocket once they enable cross-platform play. I think it's something they're going to focus on, and it may not be something that's so far down the line, like 2 years, a year, or something like that. Maybe even 6 months down the line, we can see some cross-platform play. It's got to be a focus for them going forward. Now, the third thing, and I think this is the thing that Apex is the farthest behind on, is the creative side of the game, because there's a huge portion of Fortnite's audience, and I'd say even a larger portion of their audience than the competitive side, is the creative side. So we see Twitch, and primarily on Twitch you have competitive players that are very good and entertaining to watch because of how good they are, or because they're an entertaining person. Then we go over to YouTube, and the primary focus on YouTube is not being the best player, but really the entertainment aspect, and people being entertainment through laughing with other people and just enjoying themselves. So this is where you attract a much younger audience, which is a very huge audience, with creative maps. And when very famous people like a Muselk or a Lachlan go in and play these different creative maps, people like watching them enjoying themselves on something brand new. It's a new experience every single time on one of these creative maps. This was a huge addition for Fortnite, and it came later on into the game's lifespan, and I don't see a creative mode fitting as well in Apex. I also don't think it should be the primary focus. I think their primary focus should be that competitive side. They've already shown that they can garner more numbers than Fortnite on Twitch. If they can continually do that, going into the future in the next few months, then we know that there will be a well-established game there, and I think that should be their focus, keeping a consistent meta, adding new things while maintaining a consistent meta and not disturbing it, to keep the game interesting, but also keep players invested and going in the direction of I can become better and better every single day I play. But long term, we're talking about down the line, if Apex wants to become the king of gaming, if like Fortnite has been in the recent years, if they want to take that spot, I personally, and in my opinion, don't see a way they can get there without adding some form of creative into their game, because so much content and entertainment is made around the creative side of the game that it would be a huge untapped audience if they didn't go in that direction. Now, Apex is very different than Fortnite. It's not third person to start out with, but Halo had a Forge mode, and so I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility of getting a creative mode. I know that right now the game isn't even centered on that, because probably as I'm saying this, the game needs a creative mode. A lot of you are thinking, no, it doesn't. Because we enjoy the game, including me. We enjoy the game for the competitive side. I don't even go into Fortnite for the creative side. I'm a competitive player, but I'm just realizing that there's a massive audience out there that the creative side of Fortnite accesses that Apex will have a hard time accessing until they get that universe where players can completely create their own they can develop their own new creations and create that entertainment for the millions that Fortnite has done with their creative mode. It's a long way down the line, but I think that that's also going to play into once Apex can get there and access that audience will buy microtransactions the same way the competitive audience will. So once you access that audience, you're getting in a plethora of new money, which also equals more money you can throw into your tournaments, making the game more popular for people to watch. Because like I said, the Apex Legends is great, but it doesn't need to be great in order to gain a huge audience if you throw $1 million tournaments together, like Fortnite does. If you throw huge tournaments together, your game doesn't need to be great. It's a massive plus that Apex is great. Getting that money to throw at the tournaments is going to be a huge goal for them because, like I said, you're going to get new people playing your game if you have a lot of money when people are watching people compete for it. And that's the roadmap, I think, for Apex to become bigger than Fortnite, to become the king of gaming that Fortnite has been. Already, Apex Legends has sufficed in my desire to just be such a great game because I love the way it plays on the competitive side and just becoming better and better every single day I play it. I think in the long run, there's a few steps they need to make. One, I think that Respawn would agree with me right now is getting in cross-platform play. I don't know where they're at with the creative side. It's totally possible that they just never go down that road and they just dominate the competitive scene, which is completely doable. I see I see a vivid path that Apex could take to get there. The game is that interesting and it's that good. But to become the king, you got to do some other stuff too. Let me know what you think down below. Thank you for stopping by. If you enjoyed these videos, make sure to hit the sub button. Once again, guys, I'm Backpack Barney, bringing you everything you need to know about the game. And until next time, we'll catch you later.